years or so, every bamboo plant seeds, known as bamboo
Solo,
as I call them,
Solo.
these pellets get planted, the current is out, and the cycle starts over. Now, enter the ancestor of the domesticated chicken, known as the red jungle fowl. The jungle fowl lived in the same area as the bamboo, and, as you can imagine, they got a lot of benefit out of being literally knee-deep in food once every half-century. So much so that evolution basically said, alright, when food supplies go up, I want you to just start pumping out babies like there's no tomorrow. That way, we can take as much advantage of each bloom as possible. As a result, the chicken population became synchronized with the bamboo, shooting up during blooms and dwindling in between. Then humans showed up, and they saw this pattern, and they said, wow, how bamboozling. And then they realized, wait a minute, that pun was dumb. But also, we can harness this whole chicken cycle thing. All we have to do is give these guys a whole bunch of food, and we can make their reproductive systems go into overdrive whenever we want. Do you know what that means? Lots of hot bird porn. No, it means we get as many eggs as we could ever dream of. So, with a bit of work, we managed to domesticate the chicken around 5000 BC. And as you can imagine, the idea of having a literal egg-laying machine around the house was extremely popular, leading to the chicken spreading across the entirety of the civilized world over the course of a few millennia. I think it's interesting that, despite the fact that the West has had chickens for most of its history, it wasn't until way later that we figured out where they came from. Like, alright man, it's time to delve into the world of the unknown. We're gonna see things the likes of which man has never laid eyes upon before. But, if you keep your wits about you, you just might make it out of here alive. Hey, is this yours? No? Where? What the hell? Of course, having a constantly supercharged uterus is not without its drawbacks. After all, the chicken essentially goes through its entire menstrual cycle every day. So next time your girlfriend's complaining about how bad her period is, get her a box of chocolates and be generally attentive to her needs. Anyway, one thing with chickens and most other egg-laying critters is that they only have one hole in their pelvic region, which is called a cloaca, I think. Or cloaca. Cloaca? So the Croatia basically acts like a funnel, taking all the eggs and waste and sending it down the same chute. And while this might sound convenient at first, there is one fatal disadvantage that affects chickens in particular. Sometimes the egg can get stuck on its way out, leading to a condition known as egg binding. And since this means nothing can exit the clamato anymore, the egg-bound chicken ends up dying of constipation over the course of a couple days.
Boom, boom. Boom, ba dee dee dee. Ooh, so she dee 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 dee. I'm dead. Yes, I'm flat. What was that? Boop. I got bandages. Absolutely. Yes, I isn't total idiot. Nope. Nope. No. Woo! That was a stupid idea. Boop. Noob. Noob's block is like so much higher than like a noob. Like they'll get into top 10s a lot more averagely than I know. Because you're facing off a whole bunch of kids, a whole bunch of noobs. Noob. Broadcast started. To stop broadcasting, oh, press the share button and select broadcast settings. La 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 la. Ooh, ooh. Sup, my taters? I'm here to bake you another terrific video. Yes, you just heard me say that. Everyone's just gonna ignore me. Oh shit, there's one other person that wanted to land here. Good thing I don't want to click all myself. No, no. Stupid mother. Wow, that's pretty healthy. One rocket, I'm dead. One rocket, I'm dead. One rocket, I'm dead. One rocket, I'm dead. What is that? One rocket, I'm dead. One, I'm slew. Yes. Two weapons. Oh, it's an entire thing. Two weapons. Yes. That's all I needed. I'm a dick. Here's what I get.
Good days. Hey Jerry, how you doing? Not good, Sean. Not good. Oh man, what's wrong? It's just, ever since Jenny got egg-bound, things are so stressful. Her funeral expenses are through the roof, and her memory means so much to me, but if the bills keep coming in like this, I'm not sure my family will be able to handle it. Well, hey man, you know what they say, don't put all your eggs in one casket. Let's just hope she doesn't get egg-zoomed. I'm sorry. Don't ever contact me or my kids ever again. I understand. Anyway, that's all for today. Till next time, I'm Sam Vanilla. Hey kids, today I'm going to talk about the Great Emu War. So here's what happened, right? Our story begins in Australia, home of the upside-down whopper. The year is 1932. A very large chunk of the country's population lives on homesteads, just putting seeds in the ground and waiting for food to show up, you know. But their lives are hard. Firstly, Australian soil kind of blows. It's pretty terrible for farming. Like on a scale from Margaret Thatcher's corpse to Octomom, Australia's soil is a solid Hillary Clinton in fertility. Secondly, the whole Great Depression thing's going on, which automatically makes everything suck worse. And third, and possibly most important, is the emu infestation. These gangly dill holes were all over the place, just walking on crops and crapping on crops and crapping on walks and cropping on craps and crabbing on docks and captain on the rocks. You get the idea. So the government evaluated the situation. They were like, well, let's see, let's weigh our options here. As a government, we could start spending even more money to secure the welfare of our citizens through this socioeconomic crisis, money that we barely even have. Or, alternatively, we could just start fucking slaughtering emus, so at least it looks like we're helping. So that's what they did. Major GPW Meredith of the Australian military was put in command of the operation, and he had a total of 2 soldiers at his disposal, each of which had a light machine gun. Additionally, the pair was given a total of 10,000 rounds of ammunition to be spent on taking out emus. So on paper that sounds like a piece of cake. They're basically just big turkeys on stilts, so how hard could it be? Well, apparently, pretty freaking hard. Let me learn you kids a thing or two about emus. First of all, emus are tough as hell. Their bodies are basically like meat-laden tanks. They could definitely take a bullet or three and still keep running long enough to get away. Secondly, these fuckers have tactics. Like guerrilla warfare, it ain't got shit on emu warfare. They start out in a big herd or flock or pod, I don't really know, let me Google it. Okay, a group of emus is technically called a mob. So you got a big mob of emus, right? And as soon as they sense danger, they break up into a bunch of little mobs and start scattering in every direction. So if you're spraying them down with a machine gun, you can't just whip it around all over the place. You have to focus your fire on one group at a time, meaning most of the others could get away pretty easily. I don't know if they had like a huddle beforehand or if this is just some coincidental product from their ridiculous bird minds, but it was effective either way. So between these two things, taking out the emus ended up being a huge struggle. Here's the story on what happened. So the crew went out in search of emus. The first time they found a mob, they started shooting before the guns were in range, so most of the emus got away. The second time, they waited until the emus were closer, but then the gun jammed, so most of the emus got away. And this sort of pattern went on for a while. At one point, they tried getting on the back of a truck first so they could chase down the mob, but the truck wasn't fast enough to catch up, and the ride was so bumpy that they couldn't aim properly, so most of the emus got away. By the time they got a fourth of the way through their ammo, after 2,500 shots, only 300 or so had been killed, which is tiny compared to the 20,000 birds said to be roaming the outback. At this point, they were like, alright, if I have to look at one more of these jimmy-legged big bird wannabes, I'm gonna start screaming, so you know what, fuck it, let the farmers handle it. Then the farmers were like, hey, jackholes, we're still starving out here. You still haven't given us those subsidies you promised. We had to feed the kids fucking dingo meat, which, you know, it's a nice change of pace to have the kids eating the dingoes for once, but that's beside the point. Could you dicks keep at least trying to help us? Thanks. The guys were like, alright, don't get your bogans in a bundle. We'll keep going if only to prove a point. So they kept going, just finding mobs, thinning them out slightly, rinse and repeat, until finally they only had like 100 bullets left. In total, the unit only had 986 confirmed kills. Some emus might have also died from their wounds after the fact, but still, a very large portion of the hordes was still alive. So the military was forced to surrender for real this time. Yes, that's right, kids. The emus won the war. Of course, the victory didn't last too long, because after the failed operation, the government put out a bounty on the emus, and that worked pretty well. Something like 50,000 bounties ended up being cashed out over 6 months in 1934. So the lesson here, kids, is that if you want to commit mass murder, don't crowdfund, crowdsource. Anyway, till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
Come on, bippity, spippity, boppity, boopity. I know you've got a car for me. Yeah. Invulnerable code. Ooh. Ah, lag. I said do. A force to be beckoned to a force to be reckoned. I don't care. Stop. Ah. Stop you. I use potato, potato is me. I use potato, potato is me. I use potato, potato is me. Diddle-dee-dee. I use potato, I first stands for potato. Potato stands for me. Ayy. I stand for potatoes, and potatoes stand for me. Ayy, 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 yeah. If you don't agree, you can go screw off. Yeah. Go lay down in your grave. I stand for potatoes, potatoes stand for me. Ay, ay, ay. I stand for potatoes, potatoes stand for me. Ay, ay, ay. I stand for potatoes, potatoes stand for me. Ay, ay, ay. I stand for potatoes. Potatoes stands for me. A, 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 A. I stand for potatoes. Potatoes stand for me. A, 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 E. I stand for potatoes. Potatoes stand for me. A, 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 A. Oi, 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 I stand for potatoes, potatoes stand for me. Ay, 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 I stand for potatoes, potatoes stand for me. Ay, 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 ay. Hey, hey, hey! I stand for potatoes, potatoes stand for me. Hey, hey, hey! I stand for potatoes, potatoes stand for me. Hey! Ooh, busher! Yeah, bush 1. None. Bush 2. None. Bush 3. None. Bush 1, bush 2, bush 3, bush 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, bush 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, bush 1, bush 2, bush 3, bush 2, bush 3, bush 3, bush 1, bush 3, bush 2, bush 3, bush 2, bush 3, bush 3, bush 3. I guess I should head here. Better want to hook onto the front seat. Oh! Come on, dude. I know you can do it. Come on, I know you can do it. what it is. Huh. Get nannered. Oh,
I spent 9 years inside. As a free man, I'm a warrior outside. Hey kids, so we all know that, as far as living things go, humans win, not even a contest. But it turns out, if you hop to the next genome over and look real carefully, you can actually see a basic version of a lot of the stuff that makes us so great. Here's some stories about what chimpanzees can get down to in the right context. Talk about chimtails. Now, North Korea's Pyongyang Central Zoo has a colorful history, from its humble beginnings as literally just 50 badgers and a fence, to the parrot they taught to recite poetry praising Kim Il-sung, to being the only place in Pyongyang where you could look at a dog legally. It seems the only thing that's remained constant throughout this zoo's life is that it's fucking depressing. Fortunately, both workers and animals alike found ways to cope, one of which is smoke.
Oh, no, nope, nope. Oh. I don't think I could hit here. That's my late game. Late game. Late game. That's an old game. Populate. Populated. Not populated. Populated. Populate. Not populated. Too far out. Not populated. Enough. It's good. It's bad. 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 Oh. Yes, 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 yes. I am an idiot. Yes, 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 yes. I am an idiot. What am I? I'm an idiot. Got Sky and Combat and a Bolty Boy. And people are going to be coming down to meet us. Get gas. And, oh. You know what I am? I'm a bird brain. I'm a bird brain. What am I? I'm a bird brain. If you wear a taxi, you must earn the name taxi. You must help a man get out of his spot. Oh, there goes another one. Ha 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 ha. Oh, well. What am I going to do with you? What I did? Well, I killed the wrong humpling, so sorry about that. Come on! Dang it! There we go! Whoa! Come on, somebody must have dropped Retail Row, Caddy Corner, Lazy Lake, or Misty Meadows. Because y'all will take this line. What's good? Good. Not one idiot. Not one blasted idiot decided to take the long route. Well, that means gotta load up my car. Gotta load up my car. Yeah! You watched me build this entire thing. Where it is the 16th. Hello. I'm just streaming, doing nothing creative.
Loki, Azalea the chimp is currently 13 years old and is one of the shining stars of Pyongyang Zoo purely for her ability to brush her over a pack a day. Now I like a good old-fashioned smoking chimp as much as the next guy. But whereas most zookeepers would probably try to talk her out of something somewhat healthy, the North Korean ones actually gave her supplies, just like the try to talk her out of her sales
Mass hysteria. Mass hysteria. When you're standing still, your first accurate is more than accurate. It's more accurate. Is more than accurate. More than accurate. America. Ah! Ah! I got Groot. Yeah. I got Groot. Yeah. Yeah, boy. Incredible. I want this. Incredible. Oh, cute. I got shotgun incredible. I got Goldie Groot. I got Goldie Groot. The microphone is being... Both microphone and audio are being brusque. Oh, I'm alive. Oh. Oh. Okay. Where is my friend? Okay, is that my dude? Michael dude. Is Michael dude? What a kid, no. I know. Oh, he's playing Red Dead Redemption.
First off, notice how the name Shrike is like a combination of shit and spike. And already you've got a pretty good concept of what the Shrike's all about. So this is how it goes. Shrike sees prey. Shrike uses its foot spikes to grab the prey. Prey says shit. Shrike finds another spike. Shrike fucking impales its prey on the spike. Prey says shit. The bald shingle, and a hop, skip, and a jump later, and suddenly you've got kindergartners impaled on stop signs. Birdemic 3, should you use my idea, I expect compensation. So when you go to bed tonight, kids, make sure to lock your windows. or else you might wake up with a spike up Uranus and bird shit smeared on the walls.
Come on, Apple Pay for the last things. I'm back, baby.
This video is sponsored by Wix. Hey kids, let me ask you, do you watch the news often? Have you attended a school in your life? You ever look at a dollar? If the answer to any of these questions is yes, then chances are you're familiar with at least a couple United States presidents. But if you're like me prior to last week, you've probably never heard of a United States emperor. Excuse me, good sir, but I should inform you that we're actually living under an emperor as we speak, at least according to my degree from the University of Reddit. Hey, that's great. Whoa, look over there. It's someone criticizing Elon Musk. And he's making typos. Anyway, let me tell you all a story about a man named Joshua Norton. Norton was born in England at some point in the 1810s. Very little is known about the guy's younger years, other than the fact that he spent most of his youth in South Africa as part of the UK's colonization programs. He came to San Francisco in 1849 with a modest amount of wealth to his name, and worked his way up in the real estate and commodities markets to become one of the city's wealthiest citizens. All was normal in the life of Mr. Norton, until one day when he got a little too big for his britches. You see, in 1852, China was facing a huge famine, so they completely banned the export of rice. Naturally, San Fran's rice price began to skyrocket in response to the reduced supply, peaking at 36 cents per pound. Norton saw this and decided to buy a $25,000 rice shipment from Peru at 12 cents per pound, thinking he'd corner the market. Keep in mind, that's around $750,000 in today's money. Little did he know, that wasn't the only shipment coming out of Peru, and by the time he was able to sell it, rice was already back down to 3 cents a pound. Now, according to my calculations, that put Norton at a net loss of a whole frickin' lot. He subsequently got into a years-long court battle with the vendor who sold him the shipment, which only cost him more money, and ultimately left the man destitute. So, Norton did what anybody would do after losing everything. He drank a nice hefty dose of fuck it all and said, you know what? The courts can eat my shorts, the house can eat my blouse, Peru can eat my shoe. I declare myself emperor of these United States. And I'm telling every newspaper in the city about it. And then he did. Now, the papers could have just been like, what a lunatic, and that would have been the end of it. But instead they said, you know what, this guy's kind of a meme. Let's publish his declaration, just for kits and shiggles. People across the city had their laughs, and Norton's rise to power began. From here, he issued several more commands to the media, and unlike nowadays, people loved having regular Norton updates shoved in their face. Among these announcements was a decree in 1859 to formally abolish the United States Congress. He also gave out a mandate to both the Protestant and Roman Catholic churches to formally ordain him as emperor. Although these edicts were ultimately ignored by the powers they were addressed to, they still served to build Norton's reputation around the city, and before long he was a fully fledged local celebrity. He was easily recognized by passerby, typically sporting a blue naval uniform and a beaver hat with a peacock feather in it. Pretty soon, Norton could expect to receive the royal treatment wherever he went. People started to address him formally on the streets, he got to ride public transport for free, and he even got occasional tax payments from people sympathetic to his impoverished living situation. Oh, and get this, Norton became so famous that toy stores in the city began selling dolls of the man for kids to play with. How many people can you think of that were so legendary that they got dolls made after them? You got Emperor Norton, Mr. T, and the bear that Teddy Roosevelt decided not to shoot. That's it, really. Also, though not backed by actual law in any way, his declarations came to be taken relatively seriously by the populace around him. For example, according to Norton, saying Frisco instead of San Francisco would be punishable by a $25 fine. Talk to any Frisco native and you'll find that this attitude survives to this day. With the help of a local printing firm, Norton even issued his own currency, which was actually accepted by many residents of the city, despite having no backing behind it whatsoever. In fact, a few Norton bucks are still floating around today as highly valued collector's items. I tried doing the same thing a while back, but unfortunately, Onella rubles are still only worth their weight in Onella rubles. Of course, it wasn't all magpies and molasses for our good friend Josh. He was once arrested by a policeman named Armand Barbier, who wanted to throw him in an asylum for his apparent insanity. Needless to say, when the public caught wind of this, they lost their fucking minds. Irate citizens wrote complaints in droves. All the newspapers published scathing editorials towards the police department. Stray cats were thrown into wood chippers. I don't have any evidence for that last one. I'm just, assuming based on what I would do in this scenario. Anyway, pretty soon, the chief of police got the memo, and Emperor Norton was released unscathed. Thankfully, Norton issued a royal pardon towards the man who arrested him, and from that point onward, whenever Norton passed a member of the force, they would stop and salute him. So, although in many ways he appeared godlike, Norton was but a mortal. And, as mortals sometimes do, Emperor Norton decided to drop dead on a street corner on January 8th of 1880. However, he left behind a legacy the likes of which most of us could only dream of. Beyond just the comedic value of his many exploits, Norton definitely had his prophetic moments, with some of his orders actually coming true decades after they were given. On multiple occasions, he ordered a bridge to be built between San Francisco and the Oakland Bay Area, which was eventually constructed in the 1930s. He also told people to form a League of Nations to uphold international interests. Unfortunately, a man yelling in California wasn't quite enough to convince the leaders of the world that such a thing was necessary. But who knows? Maybe the little Nordo could have stopped World War I if he had been just a bit louder. I hope this tale has inspired some of you young impressionable kids out there. Not because I expect any of you to succeed in the same way Norton did.
Can Judge Carmichael be unbiased? There are things I have gone through that will never experience. I chose to do the right thing. My character is still on trial.
All rise. Return. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. Hey kids, now some philosophers have called boats the airplanes of the sea, but while every glamorous Glennis has its slow-mo shun, so too does JJ the jet plane have his awful counterpart. Her legacy in many ways resembles my middle school career, a 3-year-long travesty plagued by blunder after blunder due to both gross incompetence and sheer misfortune, with the only silver lining being that it's remembered by relatively few. Meet the USS William D. Porter, nicknamed the Willie D, which was a perfectly acceptable alias in the days before Don't Ask, Don't Tell. She was a Fletcher-class destroyer, which, if you know Fletcher as well as I do, you know he's pretty high-class at destroying. Like when he snapped off my DS screen during summer camp because he was trying to get a better look. Didn't even apologize. He was just like, well, you're not supposed to bring video games to camp anyway. Even though everyone did. Fuck you, Fletcher. You were a counselor. You're supposed to be more mature than us. You're the reason I grew up with a lingering resentment towards authority. And my only reprisal is that I got to draw you as a disgusting fat lard for millions of people. Actually, I think his name would have been Aaron. Anyway, in July of 1943, the ship was commissioned by the Navy and led by Lieutenant Commander Wilfred A. Walter. As her first real job, the Willie D was assigned to a top-secret escort mission across the Atlantic. Walter was like, alright man, time to prove ourselves. I want to see you all on your A-game. And as its first act under military command, the ship didn't raise anchor properly and tore a massive chunk out of the ship next to it while pulling out. Okay, rough start, but definitely not a sign of things to come. The next day, she met up with 3 other ships, including 2 destroyers and a battleship known as the USS Iowa, and the fleet set off towards Africa. Given the clandestine nature of the operation, they were ordered to maintain total radio silence, so as not to alert any subs that might be lurking below. Suddenly, boom, bang, borf, Hare Krishna, huge explosion off the starboard quarter. They're like, holy shit, evasive maneuvers. But after however many minutes, the transmission comes in saying, hi, this is Wilfred D. of the Willie Walter. So a depth charge may have accidentally fallen off the ship, and we may have also forgotten to turn off the safety mechanisms on said charge, causing it to detonate immediately. So if you heard a little noise a bit ago, no cause for alarm. Also, sorry for breaking radio silence. Love you, bye. Shortly thereafter, a strange phenomenon was spotted near the ship. Officer, what in the rhyme of the ancient fuck is that? Appears to be a large wave, sir. Jesus Christ, they have that now? Basically everything that wasn't tied down ended up being swept off, and one of the boilers in the engine room got foobarred. But fortunately, no crew members were taken away, except for the one that was. Later, the 4 ships congregated in the waters east of Bermuda when the Iowa decided to test its anti-air abilities and launched a bunch of weather balloons for target practice. A few of these drifted towards the Willie D, and they took some pot shots just for fun, probably wrecking some happy albatross households in the process. But Walter was like, "Men, it's time to redeem ourselves. Spit those crayons out. Don't you know the purple ones are bad for you? Time for some impromptu torpedo drills on the Iowa. Yay!" That was Narnar and the Pow Pow. They're gonna douse their trousers when they see how good we tore those pedos. Say, you guys remember to take the primer out of all of them before launching, right? Yes, sir. Yep. What? Fortunately, the Iowa didn't really have much valuable cargo that could be damaged in the event that the torpedo struck. Oh, except for 32nd President of the United States Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who was being escorted to Cairo as the whole point of the mission. The next 5 minutes aboard the Willie D were just total fucking chaos. Humid sacks of rice, hogs and bats sniffing each other, massive stereos. Commander, we really should radio them. No, I am not breaking any more rules. Do the flashy light thing. Hey, incoming signal from old Iron Brains, a yuck. They're saying they're going to reverse at full speed? What? Shit off a bowsprit, this ain't working! Fine, call him! FaceTime Uvo, I don't give a hoot! The transmission arrived in the nick of time, and the torpedo detonated a safe distance away in the Iowa's wake. Of course, that didn't stop the entire crew of the Willie D from being arrested for, shooting a torpedo at the president. Lawton Dawson, the Elmer's eater from earlier, was initially sentenced to 14 years hard labor, till FDR came out and was like, no, it's okay. Boys will be boys. But we are sending you and the rest of Carnival Cruise Line to Alaska, where there's fewer things to ruin by being yourself. Get it, Carnival Cruise Line? Because you're the worst, and also clowns. So they kicked it for a while in the Aleutians, otherwise known as the Tale of the Pregnant Rat that makes up Alaska. This went on mostly without incident, except for when they were anchored outside an officer's home during a New Year's Eve party, and a sailor got drunk and decided to fire off one of the 5-inch guns for a laugh, ended up sending a bunch of his geranium straight to hell where they belong. Other than that, smooth sailing. Then they hung out at the Philippines for a bit before Central Command was like, alright, looks like you smoothskins are ready for actual missions again. Except you're going to clown college. And the Willie D was sent to the Battle of Okinawa under the leadership of some guy named Charles. Here they actually did some worthwhile stuff until June 10th, 1945, when a kamikaze began to dive towards them. They weren't able to shoot it down, probably because it wasn't American, but it crashed in the water some ways away. They were like, phew, crisis averted, turned their attention elsewhere, unintentionally driving right over where the bomber landed. The plane was like, the hell? Oh, shit, that's right. Bonsai. About 3 hours of desperate repairs went by before the order to abandon ship was given, and miraculously, every crew member made it out alive by the time the ship sank, just 12 minutes later. So it just goes to show, everything has its silver lining. Everyone on the dip ship gets to live, every filthy Chuck E. Cheese ball pit has a delicious prize at the bottom. So, is that I got to draw it?
Neanderthals. Sauce. Neandersauce. So.
Hey kids, remember Neanderthals? Me neither, because they're dead. Some say they went extinct because of out-competition by Homo sapiens, but personally, I don't subscribe to that notion. I believe that they went extinct primarily because they interbred with early humans, not because they were inferior survivors. Now, I could ramble on for a couple of hours about the genetic and archaeological evidence for this, but modern experts have already run those points into the ground. No, instead, I want to bring something totally new to the table that I thought of myself. I call it the sexy Neanderthal theory. Okay, hear me out. From a modern day point of view, this all sounds ridiculous, right? If someone came up to you asking if you wanted to reproduce with a Neanderthal, you'd say no, that's disgusting. Who are you? This is a mall. Where is security? But that's just what society has taught you to believe. It doesn't really reflect the true animal within you. Don't believe me? Take a look at this sculpture. Gross, right? Well, guess what? Cavemen used to whack off to that. They thought it was great. So we're gonna have to put away all of our deeply rooted cultural ideations for a second, and instead look at things from a purely biological perspective. First, I gotta learn y'all a thing or two about sexual selection. There are two main types of sexual selection. There's intrasexual selection, where members of the same sex compete for dominance, and intersexual selection, where members of one sex are intentionally choosy about who they mate with. Now, most of these are done by most animals to some degree, but with humans and most other mammals, there's a bit of an asymmetry in how either sex performs its selection. Namely, males tend to focus more on intrasexual selection, while females prioritize intersexual selection. This isn't just me stereotyping, I swear. There's actually an evolutionary reason for this. See, whereas males barely invest anything at all into mating in the absence of monogamous culture, childbearing is a huge deal to females, using up a lot of resources, so it only makes sense that males would want to be more promiscuous and females more selective. So to recap, The Bachelorette, that's an accurate portrayal of our most basic instincts. On the other hand, if The Bachelor were to be done with a bunch of cavemen, there wouldn't be this season-long show. Just a 5-hour special where The Bachelor bangs every contestant at once, which, in all fairness, would still be higher quality entertainment than the show we have now. Anyway, what's all this got to do with Neanderthals, you ask? Well, it just so happens the male Neanderthals morphology makes it so that they would be able to outman the male Homo sapiens, both intrasexually and intersexually. For one, their thick bones and heavy joints suggest that they had way more muscle mass than humans of the day, putting them at a huge advantage both in asserting dominance and in appearing attractive. Secondly, their facial features exaggerate all the characteristics that makes a face appear male in humans, with square, well-defined jaws and heavy brow lines, further increasing their appeal to human females. Broad shoulders, that's hot. Also, their large chest cavities and broad nasal passages would make it so that their vocalizations would be much louder than humans, adding still to their intimidation factor. So basically, when the male Neanderthals strut into a human village, they'd be guaranteed Casanova, ensuring that they would interbreed. But what about the Neanderthal females, you ask? If the men are more manly by default, surely the women would conversely be more man-ish. One would think that this homeliness would counteract the reproductive success of their male counterparts, but this is where that whole sexual asymmetry thing comes in, because whereas the human females would be selective towards the Neanderthals, the males don't really care. They're gonna take what they can get. Their women already waltzed off with those jabronis. They're lonely. What's a guy gotta lose? So in the end, when a population of humans meets a population of Neanderthals, there'd actually be an increased chance of genetic admixture, thereby making extinction through interbreeding seem like a much more plausible outcome for the Neanderthals. If the Nobel Committee is watching, I'd like my prize sent to this address. Thank you.
Gold. Did you say go? Did you say gold?
Hey kids,
Yeah?
it's Wildlife Wednesday. I decided to make some animal planets. No, not that Animal Planet. What I mean is, if you took every member of a certain group of animals and just rolled them into a single ball in space, how big would that sphere be? And I got some interesting answers, but before I show you my findings, I'll quickly go over my process. So first, I found the full population of a given creature or set of creatures. Then I would take the average weight of that creature and multiply the two together to get the total mass of that creature on Earth. To go from mass to volume, however, you still need the density of whatever you're measuring. Fortunately, the density of all animals is quite similar, partly due to the fact that the vast majority of creatures are at least 70% water by weight. Couple that with the fact that the ratio of fat, muscle, and bone or exoskeleton in all creatures is at least vaguely similar, and we can estimate the density of all animals to be around the same. Water is exactly 1 kilogram per liter, and then I'm throwing in a plus or minus 0.1 as a rounding error for the other material involved. As such, the values at play here are going to have 2 significant figures at most. I've included a link in the description to a spreadsheet with all my data and calculations. Quick disclaimer before we get started, a lot of this is based on estimation, particularly in the case of animal population. It's actually quite difficult to get a definitive count of a given animal on Earth, so all of the following is simply based on science's best guesses. Also, this is by no means a comprehensive list, it's just those that I could find the most reliable data on. One more clarification, the amount of specificity I give is the amount I apply to a given sphere, right? So whereas a blue whale sphere is just that one species, an ant sphere would cover all types of ants. That being said, let's roll. First up is the blue whale sphere. Although they are freaking gigantic, there is only 10,000 of them on Earth, so the sphere only came out to around 140 meters in diameter. That's about the same height as the Great Pyramid. A bit larger than that is the elephant sphere, which came out to around 170 meters. Next up is the domesticated cat sphere at around 180. That's only slightly smaller than the Roman Colosseum, which was 190 in diameter. Next up is the camel sphere at around 260 meters. Slightly larger was the domesticated dog sphere at 280. Then the chicken sphere at 330. The horse sphere is at 370 meters in diameter. Larger than that was the ant sphere, which came down to around 420 meters. I almost didn't include this one, as it is very difficult to find a definitive answer on ant populations. All those sources I found differed by like an order of magnitude or two, so I just averaged them out. Anyway though, imagine like falling back first into this thing and just having all the little minuscule creatures just consume you into their mass. Feeling itchy yet? You should. Anyway, this ball was just shy of the Empire State Building, which stood at 440. Next up is the sheep sphere, which got up to 650. Close to that is the Vatican City, which is 663 meters across. That means the Vatican is just big enough to hold all the sheep in the world. If that's not a metaphor, I don't know what is. Near the top of our list is the Antarctic Krill Planet, which reached about 950 meters. The People Planet was just a smidge larger at 960. Interestingly enough, despite the fact that there are 7.4 billion people in this sphere, it would only take 585 of them stacked toe-to-head to reach the height of the sphere. Anyway though, you'd think the human planet would be the largest, since for our size we're so disproportionately represented on Earth. However, our largest planet is actually due as a result of our giant population, as well as our voracious appetite. The Cow Planet, you see, is at a diameter of about 1.2 kilometers. That's around 2/3 of the length of the Brooklyn Bridge. So all this time, you humans thought you ruled the Earth, when in fact, we are merely the servants to our cow overlords. I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching. Hey kids, you know what's cool? Entomology. Emetology. Etymology. There we go. Today we're going to talk about some words, some combinations thereof, and where they come from. First is the phrase white elephant. Now, for those out of the loop, a white elephant is a possession which its owner cannot dispose of and whose cost, particularly that of maintenance, is out of proportion to its usefulness. And also a game played during the holidays for people who prefer random garbage over actual personalized presents. According to legend, this saying dates back to the monarchs of Siam. Whenever one of the king's courtiers drew his displeasure through whatever means, he would offer them a gift of a white elephant. It was considered the ultimate insult to refuse a gift from the king, so naturally the elephantee would be forced to accept. Now, if you know elephants as well as I do, you would know that they are frickin' gigantic. They can consume around 50 gallons of water and 500 pounds of foliage every day, which would be quite expensive to keep up in modern times, let alone hundreds of years ago. Plus, these ones are albinos. You have to hose them down with SPF 30 once an hour or else they'll turn into one big tumor. Okay, not really, but they definitely needed their shade. Also, Southeast Asian cultures considered white elephants sacred, so you weren't allowed to make the animal work, and you'd have to hire a load of people to care for it on a daily basis. Basically, the person getting the gift would have to choose between financial ruin or letting it die and being socially ostracized and possibly even killed. I thought this whole thing was pretty clever, so I started doing my own version. Whenever someone gets on my nerves, I spray paint progressive comments all over their house. That way, they'll have to spend the whole day angrily scrubbing it off, and then the neighbors will be like, "Wait, does that mean he likes the N-word? Bigoted scum." Next is balls to the wall. This one harkens back to the days when planes flew in the air. The throttle of many aircrafts would be controlled with either a lever or a plunger, either of which were often topped with a sphere for easy handling. Thus, when you wanted to throw the plane into max thrust, you put the balls to the wall. In a similar vein, the phrase balls deep comes from pinball machines. When you want to launch the ball full force, you pull the plunger all the way back, otherwise known as going balls deep. Nah, just kidding. That one actually means what you think it does. Next is getting your goat, a phrase used when someone or something annoys you. The origin of this phrase is still disputed by etymologists, but one theory traces back to the sport of horse racing. In order to stop horses from getting nervous before a race, their owners would stick a goat in the stables to keep them calm. Apparently, the presence of a goat has some kind of therapeutic effect on horses, kind of like a therapy dog, except they can't pet it on account of hooves, so they just sniff it for a while, I guess. Cut to a pack of young hooligans looking for something to do besides bootlegging and getting polio. They decide to break into the stables at night and escort the goat to an undisclosed location. Then when the race starts, instead of running straight ahead like a normal person, the horse would run into the crowd and drop kick a grandma or whatever, and the old crotchety oil tycoon who owns the horse would stand up, shake his cane, yelling, "Those punks really get my goat." Thanks to modern medicine, anxious horses today can instead be given horsey Xanax to calm them down, which unfortunately means that the days of hot-blooded goat-getting are over. However, some would argue that stealing horse tranquilizers can be equally rewarding in its own way. But enough of that mumbo-jumbo. Hey, speaking of which, you ever wonder where mumbo-jumbo comes from? Nice segue, Sam. Thanks, Sam. Anyway, strap in, kids. This one's gonna be good. Mumbo-jumbo originates from the Mandingo people of West Africa. The Mandingos were a polygamous culture, and whenever a domestic quarrel broke out, they would soon hear animalistic screaming coming from the woods. They look over, and out runs this guy, known as Mumbo-jumbo. Now, Mumbo-jumbo's arrival was considered a big deal to the Mandingo. The whole tribe would sing and dance.
You guys can hit him. I can check his health. That has to be a hit. I think that was a whole bunch of hits. So let's just take control of you. And absolutely no damage. Great. I'm just going to stand here and auto dodge. Not even pressing anything. How are you guys dying right now? My dodging is killing people. I'm just hands off. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Totally Accurate Paddle Simulator, that game where we've had a lot of surprises sprung on us over the years. But for today's episode, we finally get to be the ones full of surprises. This monstrosity is our Trojan chicken? I'm guessing they probably went with chicken instead of horse, because horses and tabs have been proven to be a little bit unpredictable, to say the least. But, different animal, same idea. And if you haven't heard the story of the Trojan horse, the gist of it is the armies of Greece have been unsuccessfully sieging the city of Troy for like a decade. The city's defenses were impenetrable, so finally, they came up with the idea of building this giant wooden horse, which they left at the gates of Troy as an offering to the gods, and then their armies just left. So, seeing this, the people of Troy thought they had finally won. They fended off the invaders. This was surrender. So they took the offering into the city, past their defenses, without realizing it was full of Greek soldiers. Later that night, soldiers snuck out of the horse, killed the guards, opened the gates, and the Greek armies returned, flooding into Troy, destroying the city. Now, are we going to be able to replicate something that epic in Tab? Hell no! You'd have an easier time getting a monkey to write a best-selling preteen novel, but that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. Want to know what's even better than one offering to Athena? How about 2 offerings to Athena? Ooh, is this a little bit too suspicious? Considering that the soldiers can be seen and...
Technical nuke incoming!
I understand your point, but if you look at the data...
Bone apple tea.
They're close.
Bone
No cigar. Speaking of bone apple tea, did you know you could actually buy bone broth at the supermarket? Yeah, bone broth. It's making me realize just how closeted my life was in terms of cultural exposure. Jaws, Canadian edition. 3 things are a nightmare with this image. A moose coming at you in the water, the wrong word, and also my attempt at the Canadian accent. I'm so sorry, Canada, please. No, don't deny my work visa. Jesus, his goal stats are very neat, I have to say. Come on, you've got to at least think about what you're saying. I know that is a very rare thing among humanity, but still, sometimes you can only clearly see yourself when through the eyes of another. Except when there's too many frogs around, luckily we have a product just for you with our anti-frog swimming goggles. No longer will your beautiful views of the reef be clustered with a bunch of random frogs that have somehow taken over the salt water. How do you even work? Do you spray some sort of scent to drive them away? No, we simply apply live electrical wires all around the goggles so it zaps the frogs as they come close. Oh, that's completely safe underwater. A
part of a healthy, balanced breakfast. Ugh, the extra effort with the capital A. Come on, man, you were so close.
It's meant for aerodynamics. It just helps with movement. Oh, buddy. I can sense so many people reading this comment to be quivering with frustration. That acid is strong.
Ah, yes, a non-visible butt, the most corrosive substance on the planet.
That's why, for the safety of all my friends and family, I make sure my butt is very well seen. You know, it's crazy. Like what most men don't know, or all men. Women don't really be sex addicts and like have sex or horny or masturbate more than once a week. Like, sometimes we just be chilling, but men want to frick every second. Addicts, babe, addicts. Why the frick did you steal my Adderall? So you went through my purse and fricking stole my Adderall? What the frick is wrong with you, bro? I needed that stuff for my fricking ADHD. What the actual frick? What is wrong with you? Now I know what you're thinking, but they are in fact actually talking about an 80-inch HD TV. But in all seriousness, actually quite a few people with ADHD do pronounce it like ATHD. Honestly, depending on the age of the person sending this text, this was actually probably intentional and just due to their mental disorder. I still give it my tee-hee of approval, but you know, it's not like they're an idiot. You shouldn't care what you're eating. We eat veg or not veg. It's all just a little chemical reaction going in your tummy. Okay, I guess the eat here is meant to be it, but I don't know. I feel like it still makes sense. Isn't like you eating veg or non-veg. It doesn't matter. I don't know if this one passes that much. No tee-hee of approval here, moving on. That bald kid from Avatar. Bong? Water. No, he was an air blender. Wow, the Queen won't bow down to the public opinion about our protest outside the palace last week. Shame on you.
I'm not doing it! Do you not care about the people? That's it, I'm disbanding this monarchy.
I think both of them are just deeply hurt. You can never get hurt that much if that person did not hold a place in your heart. They'll be bowling their eyes out if someone dies. That would be an interesting visual for a funeral. Joseph was a man who struck our very hearts with his camaraderie. Speaking of strike, let me get this boy out. The person who hit our car today and didn't leave a note thanked for your honesty. Yum. Hopefully karma will come your way. No, we don't have a spare $400 for excess to get it fixed.
What the hell? What are you doing to my shoulders, man?
Somebody wished karma upon you. Here's a nice pina colada. Why not relax on this chair? What does CDs and dissing mean? What do they mean? Means he has to stop making it due to copyright reasons. Getting sued. Oh my god. Ceased and desist. How do you get seeds and dissing from? The human brain, ladies and gentlemen, it knows no bounds. I live in a cul-de-sac, FYI. You mean a cul-de-sac? Nope, I live in a sack in a cult. Will I get diabetes from eating too much sugar? No. If your mother catches you, though, yes. Baby, I love you so much. I just cleaned out and organized the damn Tupperware drawer. The freaking Wi-Fi is still out. I'm sorry, what drawer? No, please, tell me again. What did you do? You know, the drawer with the tubs that are sentient and speak to you. Wait, they don't speak to you? No spelling mistakes with this one. Just some nice, good old tea with bones in it. Also, there's an apple. Don't know why that's here. Really irrelevant. Let's move on. I'm actually done. They're all a bunch of racists. Dude, sometimes race doesn't play part. Come on, man. Sometimes. Like, come on, man. I think race isn't a scapegoat. Don't you agree? Bone apple tea, scapegoat. Okay, but no, I'm gonna forgive this one because where the hell does the definition of scapegoat even originate from? Like, why did we decide that? What did goats do to humanity that we just condemned them to this negative typing? Yep, I decided to look it up. In the Bible, a scapegoat is one of two kid goats. As a pair, one goat was sacrificed and the living scapegoat was released into the wilderness, taking with it all sins and impurities. So it's worse than I thought. It's not because some goats were real a-holes to people back in the day. It's we literally killed some goat's sibling and left the other to fend for itself in the wild. Could you just imagine someone breaking into your house, killing your sibling, then kicking you out of the house and saying, "You're an a-hole, go away." Ah, religion.
Innocent! Oh my god, innocent!
Do whatever make you feel fulfilled, man. I'm sure we wouldn't mind variety, no matter what you pursue. What's worse is in a way that still kind of makes sense. Thanks, English language. It's easy to stuff up, but still make your point. Personally, I'm terrified of the final frontier.
You must hear me to enter the pearly gates.
Oh gosh, you're so scary!
Ow, dude, don't shriek so loud. hurts.
Little did I know that this town would change my life forever. People were so nice and polite to me from the get-go. I thought this were the hateful, angry people. Well, now I'm just visualizing a town in the middle of the U.S. that has a gecko that greets all the strangers. Help wanted. Experienced
Grilled man.
Hi, I noticed you're looking for some workers. You're hardly even seasoned. Come back when you're char grilled. I have a box of hand-me-down clothes for 0 to 6 month olds ready for pickup. If anyone is interested or needs before I donate elsewhere, hand-me-down clothes. I'm calling it that from now on. It's a hard knock life. Hard knock life, you mean? What? This whole time? I'm so confused. Are you trying to say it's a hard knock life and just thought it was hard not life? Here's some evidence for you. You were wrong all along, you fool. I can only plead that she said this in front of so many people with such confidence
Hard
that
not
it was
life.
the right way to say it. Well, we are quite a bit into this video, so guys, I do try to remind you all to be healthy and stay hydrated. So if you finish that bottle of water, go to the kitchen right now and fill it up again so you can shred it highly. He's become a hippo cricket ever since he got married. I really hope this wasn't autocorrect. I really hope that this was them genuinely thinking that's how it's spelled. The last time they did something like this, they revealed Island Living, Machino stuff, and Realm of Magic, right? Very interesting that they're using this platform just to announce a small game pack. Jan is trans? Never mind, I misinterrupted the comment. When law enforcement... Come on! Says drop it, you freaking drop it. They say get on the ground, get on the ground. They obviously have a good reason you are most likely breaking the law. So that's with all the unnecessary arrests. It's simply because no one's in cement when they're meant to be. I did it, folks. I solved the protests in America. We can all go home now for $1,479. Master Luke's lifesaver. Okay, look, I'm gonna... excuse this one, because for a long time when I was a kid, I thought they were called lifesavers too. I mean, come on, they were saving his life, but that's what they do. My stomach says, I love this fit. That cat is my hero. I love dogs, but anything like this happens to my baby, and I will tear it limb from limb with my bare hands. That dog should be put down. Oh, seems your bees have gotten a bit limp themselves. You might just want to bring them back upright. How can you not read this? What the frick? I'm illiterate. That means you can read it. 1 star. Don't waste your money. I've been ordering a lot of stuff off Amazon. Some things I've been happy with, while others not. This is totally a waste of money. It did absolutely nothing. Yeah, there's directions, but you need a magnifying glass. So after reading everything, I decided to try it. Well, there was no vacuuming, sucks, let alone getting blackheads out. Being so mad, I just put it back into the box. What are you talking about? I said it correctly. It's a glass that finds things, and it's the Magna brand. Karen doubling down, be like,
Well, my old truck got a Molotov cocktail thrown at the windshield because of this sticker in the back window. Yeah, I spelled it wrong, because I'm not going to have any other language other than American on my social media. Yeah, except for that little bit there, but we'll just ignore that.
welcome to the ways of the singer, Mama Stew, and Namaste. What the frick? Mama Stew? Someone's a bit hungry for their mama's juices. Oh god, that sounds even worse. How did your mind jump to that? I have no idea. I always think those marijuana farmers do use UV. I'm sorry, I don't know how to spell the proper version of weed. Marijuana? Marijuana? No, why did you tell them? It was beautiful. Oh, their ignorance was beautiful. You ruined it with the clarity. Cramps so bad I'm screaming, where the frick you at, menopause? Menopause yelling back, you're 31. Ugh, some men may argue for the right to bear arms, but ladies here in their mid-50s prancing around with menopause. It's a personal computer. Do you have administrator privileges? And the version of Windows 10 is cracked Windows 10. Actually, I have 2 administrator privileges. But I can't use all the time. I have to save it for my 30 administrator privileges at the next meeting. Shout out me, please. Nobody cares. Well, lucky for you, I'm not named Buddy. And I also don't care. Moving on. Don't give respect to people who don't even know the meaning of it. By giving them the utmost respect, you're disrespecting your emotions. To the bilingual eye, this probably still makes sense. Partition to bring Jen back. I don't know how well a partition will do, but we can try. Look, if you're capable of partitioning, I am setting you on fire, because clearly you are not human. Lol, and why should anyone vote for him? Sexist PDF file, etc., just like Trump. Yeah, man, I'll excuse docs, alright, because, you know, they're in the medical field, they help people, but PDFs? They've got no excuses. I mean, half of them are read-only anyway. What's the point? Not looking forward to Tuesday. It's supposed to be summer for peak's sake. Yeah, in one way, it can be the peaks of sex. The peaking of your sake.
Wait, what does seg even mean in this context? I feel half of these are me just questioning my own understanding of the English language. Out of consideration for or in order to help or please someone. Now there you go, that works in this context either way. Road rage, a guy gets run over. Graphic. So what, he doesn't get angry? No, he